early mornings. John, I know you have to love these bright and early mornings all the mornings too. I think about you every week, every month when I send out the agenda. I think, wow, John's got a long drive bright and early in the morning. So thank you, we appreciate
There's
it.
no traffic though.
Winston.
Yeah.
No traffic.
Yeah, no traffic in Winston.
Yeah, none at all. I don't like mornings at all, and I'm not very far from here, but, I don't like to get out and about early. But every time I do have to get out and about, I think, wow, this is the time of the morning to drive to work. But not enough to get up early to do so. You guys all know me. You know our clubs are Crescent, East Greensboro, Gate City, and Southern Guilford. I am Susie. Slade, you want to go this way?
I'm Slade. I'm with the Guilford Club. I'm the AG of Area 5, and we have Guilford, Summit, Airport, and Greensboro.
Oh, I'm Claudia Kennedy. I'm with Ted and Summit and Governor-elect.
Lonnie.
Oh, I'm Lonnie. I'm with Southern Guilford New Generation Rotary Club, and I am the foundation advocate for Area 11.
I'm Walt Obley, and I am the president-elect with Greensboro Airport Rotary.
I am Ted with Summit Rotary.
And James with East Greensboro Rotary. Greg Brewer, the Area 11 membership advocate.
And a member of.
Crescent, sorry.
Ralph Jones, president of Gate City Rotary.
John Lauder, president of Crescent.
Brian Mann, president of Airport Rotary.
Abby Donnelly, Crescent Rotary.
Abby is our special guest today. She's a special guest today thanks to Ralph Jones contacting me and saying, hey, we've got to do a strategic club plan in May, and I'm going to praise you just for a second because I was so proud that you were looking ahead, because when you told me about it, I had to go read it and check it out before we could talk. And Ralph said that he really wanted to get that done early so that his last few months as president he could enjoy rather than be stressed about the things he had left to do, and I loved that. So that's why Abby is here today.
2 months ago. So.
It was. Abby, the floor is yours.
Okay, very good. So many of you have probably been exposed to strategic planning through business, and in Rotary it's a little bit different because you don't have to figure out the direction that you want to go at our Rotary International level. They've done that work for us. The Rotary International has figured out why their reason for existence is and what they want to do. And so at our level, I wanted to kind of take you through the cascade to get you to what's going to ultimately be important to you, which is how do you create a really vibrant, exciting, growing, healthy club. And so Susie and Slade had done some research on Rotary International's website, and I thought that this information might be helpful to put in front of you just for context. So I'm not going to go through each sheet, but the first page that you have that I would like you to pull is this one. And this is Rotary International Strategic Plan. At the club level, everything that we do should be connected in some way, shape, or form to why Rotary exists and what Rotary International expects of their clubs. And so you can see from this overview plan what the values are and the strategic goals. And those are then used to cascade down to the district level. And we happen to have a phenomenal district, and many of you that have traveled outside of our region probably have seen that not only is our district recognized for our level of giving, but it is also recognized for one of the few districts around that have something called Gold Club. I thought when I learned about Gold Club that everybody did Gold Club and it was an international kind of a thing, but it's not. It's only in a few districts that do something like this. And so your district leadership has looked at Rotary International strategic plan and said, what do we need to do in our region, because the triad and extended areas around the triad is different than in Japan or in Paraguay or other countries around the world, and it's different than other states and regions in the country. So our district leadership put together Gold Club, and Gold Club says this is what you need to do to ensure that you have a really vibrant, healthy club, and that you're fulfilling the expectations of our district, which is a high-performing district. So this helps you to set the direction for your club. Now, you don't have to do this, but I gotta tell you, following through on Gold Club is a really powerful way of setting the stage for what's going to be a good club and a good year for each of you and your following president-elects and nominees behind that. And so the process of cascading down then can continue from the Gold Club. And so strategic planning is really taking what they've done and then putting it at a club level. So I put together for you, I'm gonna hand out a few copies of what I use in business. And what I've done is overlaid the application for you for the club. So what's coming around is a strategic planning process that I've been using since my days at Procter & Gamble. So it's been 30 plus years that I've been using this. And what you'll notice at the top is Rotary International's mission, purpose, and vision. And there's another packet handout that you have that also comes from Rotary International. And that's the page numbers that I'm referencing on the strategic plan process in front of you. So Rotary International mission, purpose, vision, they cover on page 3 of this. I don't see the page numbers on here. Okay, well, we'll just keep going. All right, so the page numbers were on it when I looked at it online, but not here. Rotary International then also gives us the organizational values and principles and gives us kind of the goals. So then the district goes down into that. And then at the club level is where you start to figure out, pages 4 and 5 of the document is where you start to figure out, all right, so what are my strategies at the club level? And the kinds of things that you would be thinking about at the club level are things like, how do we attract diverse membership that's vibrant and contributing, engaged? How do we deliver fun and engaging meetings so that people want to be there and they want to be a part of the club? Selecting and investing in powerful and high impact projects. Things like setting high standards for membership behavior. So for example, if you go to Greensboro Rotary Club, their standards and expectations around attendance are dramatically different. It's not a judgment, they're just dramatically different than the standards and expectations at Gate City Club, which has like 99+% expectation for attendance, right?
Yeah, 100.
100%. See, there you go.
Expected, that doesn't mean we get it.
That's right. So each club leadership team needs to figure out, what do you want to take away and what do you want to focus on your year? And so there are some traditional things from the Gold Club and from Rotary International that are probably important to each club, but there may also be some things that are particularly important for your club that differentiate you. Like, what is your unique competitive advantage? What does your club do differently and better than any other club out there? So you can then have a brand that differentiates yourself. I remember when Southern Guilford New Generation started, the way that they differentiated themselves was they said, first, we're going to be an evening club. We're not going to have expensive dinners, though. We're going to have inexpensive dinners, and we're going to focus on service. So twice a month, we're going to do service projects as our club meeting. That's a unique differentiator compared to the other clubs in our region. Somebody then that comes along and says, well, I want to really invest in service, we're going to point them towards Southern Guilford New Generations because that's the unique differentiator. There are a variety of different unique differentiators that your club may have or that you can choose for your club to have. Those go into your strategic plan. But your strategic plan probably needs some of the foundational things that every other club needs to have to stay healthy and growing, like you need to continuously be looking to add new members. And diversity is really important. As you know, baby boomers are aging and retiring and unfortunately on the older end passing away. And the millennials are reaching into the workforce in massive numbers. And so diverse workforce means you've got to be able to straddle, diverse club membership means you need to be able to straddle that whole age range. And so figuring out your strategic plan needs to be based on what is your unique competitive advantage, and then what are the things that you need to have in place to ensure that the club is going to stay and or if it's not already become healthy. And so the process is figure out what those things are. And there are a number of ways of doing that that are pretty traditional. And if you look at the process that I use, it's also in your packet that Rotary International recommends that you use. It starts with a SWOT analysis. And the SWOT analysis stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And it took me some time to figure this out. So at the risk of telling you something you already know, the strengths and weaknesses are about your club. That's internally focused. What are our strengths and what are our weaknesses? The opportunities and threats are externally focused. So what are the opportunities that are out there? So what are those unique things that we could do that would really differentiate our club? What are some opportunities that we could seize? So for example, if downtown Greensboro is going through this, renaissance, right? I'm just making up stuff here. So there's a whole lot of really exciting stuff going on in downtown Greensboro. Well, if your club wanted to tap into an opportunity around that, maybe you want to be the Rotary Club of the Arts, and that's the way you want to differentiate yourself, because we have Tanger Center and we have the Folk Festival, and now it's moved from national to state folk festival. So maybe that's a unique opportunity that you would want to seize for your club. I'm not suggesting it, I'm just throwing out examples of external opportunities that you could see and embrace. Threats are things that are going on outside of your club. Weaknesses would be the inside of your club, but threats are things going on outside of your club that could really take down your club. So a major threat that I'm sure that you've all been talking about is just the threat of the changing workforce and the fact that, all organizations, civic, churches, etc., they're all struggling to keep membership. So how do you stay relevant with that? Well, that's a huge threat. Well, obviously Rotary International is doing some things to try to figure that out. Our district is doing some things, but your club could also choose to do some things around that. And that's why the E-Club became a thing, and so we've now got one in our district. And so those are things that you could look at as differentiators that you could put into some strategic plan for your club. So you do the SWOT analysis, and then coming out of that, it gives you some ideas around some strategies. And I always recommend that you have some measures for your strategies. So how are you going to know that your strategies are successful? You've got to have some form of measurement to say that it's working. And Gold Club has some wonderful measures. Sometimes they're activities that you do, but sometimes it's things like membership. +1, net +1 is a measure. And so from there, the critical piece of work is figuring out what are those strategic actions. Because you've got to be able to have an action plan to execute against this. Strategies are great, but they're generally higher level. They're directional in nature. But things happen at the club level. We hear that phrase all the time. Well, actions happen at the people level. And so you've got to be able to put the actions in place, assign responsibility to people to actually do those actions. And then, so that's the next piece of it, is implementing the systems that are going to consistently execute. And you've probably got systems in place for running your club. You've got an agenda that you use every week. You've probably got systems for onboarding new members, and you've got lots of systems that help your club be successful. So if you're introducing some new strategies, then you want to put systems in place that support that, so that it's not done through horsepower, it's done through the systems. Execute the systems. Accountability can be really difficult in a volunteer organization, but as club presidents, that's part of your responsibility, is to hold your members and your chairs accountable for executing against the systems. So a tracking system to make sure that the results are being delivered. And then a monthly and or a quarterly review. You could do a review in your board meeting to see how you're doing. Most clubs do it something like that. You could also do a formal review in some other capacity. but some sort of a review process to see how you're doing. Most clubs use the Gold Club award as that review process to kind of check in and say, are we on track? These meetings are a great review process at the strategic level and at the Gold Club level to say, are you doing what you said you'd do? And is your plan working? So there are really two questions that you look at on a review process. One is the tactical accountability question. Did you do what you said you were going to do? You said you were going to make this happen this year. Did you do it? You said you were going to make this happen this month, this week, whatever. Did it happen? And then the other question is more about the overall plan. Is the plan working? If you have a strategic plan that says we're going to grow membership and you've got some specific strategies around outreach, maybe you're going to do a strategy could be that every week you're going to read the Business Journal and you're going to figure out who's moving into town, what companies are growing and expanding and hiring, and you're going to target those companies because those are vibrant companies that will have vibrant people that want to be a part of their community. Well, if that's your strategy, the first question is, are you looking at the Business Journal every week? Are you making your list and are you doing your outreach? But over time, on a quarterly basis, you want to say, is this strategy working? Are we getting anybody? Is there any traction? And if it's not working, you want to either check and make sure that you're actually doing it, because sometimes we think it's not working because we're not actually executing it. But sometimes we're executing it flawlessly, but it's just not a good strategy. Those people aren't interested in joining a Rotary Club, or they don't have the time because their business is growing so fast, things like that. So your review process needs to look at both of those questions. And then the last piece of it before you go through this process again is, what did you learn? Incorporate in your learnings, reapply, make the improvements, and then cycle through and update your plan accordingly and continue it. And so every year you should be relooking at your strategic plan. Every 3 years you probably want to do a comprehensive process again. This doesn't have to be hard and it doesn't have to be rocket science. I differentiate when I work with clients. I try to help them differentiate between, are they doing a strategic plan or are they doing a work plan? And a work plan means, what are you trying to accomplish and what are your strategies for doing it? And most of the time in Rotary, I would say that we're doing a work plan because the strategies in many cases are laid out for us. We already know where we're going with Rotary. We already know what's important. That doesn't mean you can't do a really comprehensive strategic plan, but most members and most presidents have enough on their plate that doing some sort of comprehensive thing and then knowing you're going to turn over in a year, a work plan is a highly adequate strategic plan to go through. So let me pause here, and what questions do you have or thoughts?
My thought was, and I got this from John Huco when he spoke at PETS, is that the whole idea of my year tends to make things get kind of, oh, we're going to start this new project. We've got these other 8 that we've been working on, but my year, I want to do this thing. And how that may not be consistent with the strategic plan. It may just get people kind of off track. And then I always think of energy. Energy can be kind of dissipated and going all out, but if it's focused, it gets a lot more done.
Yeah.
So that's what seems to sometimes can happen. So that's what I'm trying to do, is kind of keep things going, because we have so many good things going on that sometimes all these new ideas come in and it just gets you distracted from doing the things we're already doing well.
Well, Ted, I think that's such an excellent point. And there are 2 comments I want to make on that, if I can. One is that when you look at what the district has done, the district over the last several years has tried really, really hard to have continuity from year to year, so you're not hearing all kinds of new things. So Claudia has been working with Lloyd, who's been working with Larry, who's been working with John, all the way back, so that there's continuity in direction to you year after year. And I know that many clubs have done strategic planning with the 3 years. When we were walking in, you were talking about wanting you have your president-elect already leading the strategic planning process. And that's a really powerful way of doing it. And the second point I wanted to make is, what I love you said is, I just want to keep the good stuff going. Absolutely. That's why a work plan is often a better approach, and we'll call it a strategic plan because it is strategic in nature. but it's really about knowing what's working really well for your club and keeping that momentum going. And where things aren't working or aren't working anymore, then you come up with some new strategies to do it. But to do a wholesale renewal every year it's a lot of work, and it can be very hard to activate anything. You know, in business, the strategic plans that I do with folks, it's a 3-year plan because it takes the first year to get the infrastructure in place. It takes the second year to actually start to activate it, and then you start to see results. So, great points.
You mentioned, our vision, and Walt's really helping me with this, and that's why I asked him to come today. But, so our vision, because we don't have a strategic plan technically documented, written out, we'd like to have something, and my thought was the president-elect every year will go in and look at this and give whatever changes need to be made at that point in time, but basically it's getting ready for his or her year the following year. My question is, how do you put that together to keep the continuity but still give that person jurisdiction to make changes that they need, but not to go in and just, how do you put anchors in there, I guess?
Well, I think one way of doing it that might be really helpful, it kind of builds on what Ted was talking about, is if you use the SWOT analysis as your guide to say, what really do we need to change? And then the SWOT would say, well, let's keep our strengths going. Any weaknesses we want to shore up. And that's the new president's opportunity to say, well, these weaknesses I want to address in my year, and that's where they might make some changes. And then if there are any opportunities or threats that the club leadership says, this is an opportunity we want to seize, then that's a decision across club leadership. And if there are any threats, you probably need to address those. So that could be a really nice foundational thing to just come back to. And what I would recommend is, instead of throwing out the SWOT every year, is keep the SWOT and then, relook at it, and add to it or adjust it, things like that.
Thank you, Abby.
Sure. Other questions? So if there's anything that I could do, drop me an email, give me a phone call or something like that. My contact information is in the directory, and I'd be happy to help. I'm not volunteering to come and facilitate all of your strategic planning sessions, and I don't think you need me. I think that you have everything you need to be capable of doing exactly what is going to serve your club well. So, but I'm happy to be a resource for you.
If you have a specific question.
Yeah, or you just want to chat some things through.
The very first call, she was going to consider facilitating.
I did. Yep, I was willing to do that because it was the only one at the time. But now I'll offer it a little bit differently. So anyway, I know that I've heard lots of things about what your clubs are doing this year, and I know you've all had a really good year. And for the one of you I think that's in here that's president-elect, I wish you much success next year and look forward to seeing where you guys come out. So thanks for having me today.
Thanks, Abby.
Thank you very much. Okay, Greg, you're up.
It's like an all-crescent meeting, huh?
It is. I thought about that. Yes, it is. Who's going to step up next month and be an all?
Summit meeting or something. Well, I can't see everybody, so I'll stand up. Tell me exactly what you had hoped to accomplish from today's
Membership
discussion.
ideas, things that
Membership
you
ideas.
hear at the district level that might not filter all the way down. Any recaps from the membership summit that really struck a nerve with you. What Crescent is doing with membership this year.
Well, thank you, Sue. First of all, I see one folder. You must have attended the district summit, membership summit. Who else attended that summit? So we had quite a representation. What value, did you get a lot of value out of it, Claudia?
Oh, I thought it was fantastic, but I attended it before, but I think there was such good information, and it really dug deeply into what the trends were and being put the face of reality on what we're facing. The fact is, attrition is 12%, period. So we have to grow by more than that in order to stay even. So the membership is critical, and I thought that the Rotary moment or the Rotary membership meeting, number 4, item number 4, was fabulous.
I really appreciate it. It kind of cemented for me some things I've been thinking and kind of concerned about. Crescent Rotary Club, I've been a member of for a long time. I think it's great. We've accomplished wonderful things, but we've lost members over the last few years. And in previous trainings, I've run across a concept called the burning platform, and it was a story about a guy in the North Sea who was on an oil derrick, and they caught fire. And he jumped like 100 feet, and it was dark, it was midnight, and so he jumped like 100 feet into an ocean, without having any idea that he was going to survive or that he, that